Hello and welcome to this review of my Epomaker RT98 keyboard Southpaw edition. This was a donation from Epomaker. They've donated me quite a few models in the past. Originally I wanted to make this a short review, but as it turned out quite a lot of things are different from their previous models other than the build quality, so it turned into a full review anyway. The build quality is the same, full plastic and not exactly remarkable, but overall fairly okay as their other boards though. The switches are also the same in practice, even though they're theoretically different on paper. The ones in this one are called Creamy Jade, and they're 3.6mm pre-lubed MX Reds, which means they're basically exactly the same as their Wisteria switches that I've shown 4 times before now, you know, the pistachio and lavender ones. These switches are about as generic as they come, so I'm not going to mince more words about them than necessary. The first real difference is this numpad here, which I've mounted on the left to make the difference more obvious, but it's actually detachable, so you can also mount it on the right as usual, and in fact you can order it in either orientation out of the factory. On the left, it's one of the variations of a left-handed keyboard. On full-size models they sometimes also mount the nav on the left, but this being a 98% form factor, that's a little bit more complicated, so it's just the numpad in this case. That said, there are reasons why you might want to mount the numpad on the left even if you're a righty, the most obvious being more space for your mouse. This way, in terms of mouse space, the keyboard is equivalent to something like a 75%, except you get the numpad anyway. This idea isn't new. I previously covered this keyboard called the Data Desk Switchboard that used this concept about 3 decades ago. This actually used 3 different modules that could be swapped around, and it came with white Alps switches, so it was really nice to use even if the setup was a bit finicky in places. Every now and then you see someone else attempting this sort of modular concept, and this is an example of a simple, only 2-part version, but it's done fairly well. The 2 parts are connected via ribbon cables internally, and the main housing serves as a fixed tray for the 2 modules. As you can see, there are bolt holes here at the back for mounting the modules wherever you want. This is basically what it looks like from the other side with the top off. As you can see, this is very similar to how the Data Desk Switchboard did it as well. Now, there are more quick detach ways you can think of, but I think going for a stronger, more solid connection like this is not a bad idea because, let's be honest, how often are you going to change this setup around after all? Now, personally, I find a numpad to the right more useful for 2 reasons. First, I'm more trained with the numpad on the right, and second, I found it to be very useful to be able to hit the enter key with your mouse hand's thumb, which isn't possible with it on the other side, of course. But those are purely personal considerations, and this sort of southpaw arrangement has many legitimate use cases. The second thing I want to touch on is this little screen, which they call a mini TV. Not content with having just one special feature, Epomaker also stuck this thing on, and it's a nice example of why I've covered so many Epomaker keyboards. They tend to always include 1 or 2 quirky extras or funky features on their boards, and out of the ordinary stuff is exactly the sort of thing that grabs my attention, so I'm always highly appreciative of attempted innovations like this, even if they turn out to be a bit of a miss. This screen shows a whole bunch of things, including time and date, lock lights, battery charge, connection type, Win or Mac layout, etc. And there's also a typing mode where it shows you your inputs, as well as room for up to 3 custom pictures, including GIFs or GIFs, that you can cycle through. It's kind of cool. Whether it's useful for you is up to debate, obviously, but it's definitely something out of the ordinary at least. I remember the last time I did an Epomaker, I spent the whole evening uploading silly shit into this thing. It was pretty fun, to be honest. You can also draw things on it with the included software, which is a simple to use Electron widget that I've discussed before, or use the online configuration tool. There are a few things they could have made a little bit more convenient with it, such as real-time updating, remembering your previous pictures and stuff, but overall it's pretty easy to work with. You can also use it with VIA, the JSON file is downloadable from their website, but that can't do the screen stuff obviously. Strangely, although the keyboard has a display and a dedicated calculator button, this doesn't actually make the keyboard work like a calculator, it just opens the calculator in Windows. Rather a missed opportunity here, I think. I've of course been advocating calculators on keyboards for about 10 years now, and I think they're really useful, so the lack of this feature when all the necessary hardware for it is present is a bit of a pity, I think. The Mini TV is not new, I should point out. I've shown it on other models before as well, though the one on this version is sort of a Mark II compared to the older ones, with two major differences that I want to point out. First is that it's in a much better spot. The original was at the top left here, which meant that it was constantly in the way whenever I tried to hit the escape key, which, if you game a lot like me, tends to be quite frequently. This new position is much better, and I've not found it to be in the way at any point. Second, on the older models, it was mounted at the rear via this thing here, which left it kind of dangling around. This meant it projected out from the rear of the keyboard, bumping into things, plus it worked like a kind of lever, and I can imagine it would be easy to break the connector or the port like this. On other models I've had problems with broken or recessed ports on Epomaker keyboards as well, so this is significant. On this one, they went with a mounting system that both doesn't protrude and which just connects via magnetic pads at the top, which is 100 times better. Very nice. It seems like they took user feedback into account when designing this new version, though you do need to reset the screen with FN+C every time you do this. The keycaps are also different. They're no longer double shots, they're now die subs, with much smaller legends, but they are quite thick. Both are pretty decent. I suspect they're actually quite cheap to make, but thick PBT die subs are pretty much impossible to fuck up, so honestly, these should do very nicely. It's $119, which is kind of mid-range budget class, especially for a full-size-ish board. It's not cheap, but you do get some nice extra features. Epomaker tends to make fairly modestly priced keyboards. This one's a bit more expensive than their usual stuff, but it's still not in the enthusiast bracket or anything. Honestly, I kind of like it. It's rather gimmicky, of course, but in a good way, and the left-handed numpad option definitely can be quite useful. And although left-handed keyboards exist, there aren't that many options for it. I would have preferred a real 100% layout myself, as I find 98% takes away more than it brings to the table personally. For example, with this key arrangement here, you can't play Magic Carpet 2 on legacy controls at all, so I had to use a backup keyboard for that. Though, admittedly, that is somewhat specific, and the lack of a true calculator mode is a real missed opportunity. That's it for this review. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed it, and following is a typing demonstration of me typing on this keyboard.